What's up, guys? So I thought I'd give you a tour of my darkroom today. This is the second darkroom I built, so why don't you come with me and I'll give you a little walkthrough. So this is my office area. Ooh, that was noisy. And if you're gonna have an office area, you should probably have a darkroom connected to it. So this wall I built. So when we bought this house, I kind of put these cabinets in and I built this wall. Now, in doing that, I made two doors going to the darkroom. So that way light kind of falls off into one when it's closed, and then I put all this weather stripping. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see. I put all this weather stripping in the second door, which I clearly painted, put the weather stripping on, and then closed the door because all the paint like peeled off. But anyway, it keeps it pretty dark, and this is my darkroom. So when I built this, I basically decided that I wanted to have a wet side and a dry side and a wet side. So this is the dry side. Here is it's a Saunders. Let me see if you can see this. It's a Saunders 4550 XLG with a variable contrast constant exposure head. So it's got the filters built, it's a dichroic head, it's got the filters built right into it, which is really nice. So this is the other side of the wall that I put up, and I've only had this enlarger for about a year. Before that I had a Omega, what was it? An Omega D4 with the dichroic color head. And when I put this wall in, I put like three 2x4s like here and here. I basically built this wall like Fort Knox because I knew I was gonna mount my enlarger to it. And so when I put this in, it was all lag bolted, and it was just crazy sturdy. And then I bought this enlarger, and I kid you not, it was like an inch and a half too tall. So I had to rip all of this out, and it was such a mess. And if anybody that's ever owned or been in a darkroom, whenever you have to do anything in it, like construction wise, it's always just nerve-wracking, because the more dust and stuff that's kicked up in your darkroom, it's just frustrating. So anyway, I had to rip this all apart once I got this enlarger. I'm very happy with it, but it was like an all-day project that I planned on just taking this enlarger and setting it in here. Instead, I had to rip this whole board out, and it was, like I said, it was all, like, you can't see it, but this whole thing was lag mounted into this wall that I built like Fort Knox. Now this one's mounted in there pretty good. Basically, if this house ever got hit by a tornado, someone would find this enlarger mounted to a wall somewhere. So anyway, so that's my enlarger. I got multiple lenses. This is a rod and stock. This is my large format lens. The one that's on there is 105. That's the one I use for, that is the one I use for medium format film. And this is a copy stand that sometimes I do negatives and do different things with that. So then on the wet side, here is the sink. And I actually built this sink. And what it is, it's just a wood frame with fiberglass and epoxy resin coated over it. And this sink was actually one that was from the first darkroom I built. So I actually brought this in here, and okay, here's another kind of interesting fact. This sink was put in this room before that wall was put up. So what that basically means is I don't know how I'd ever get it out of here except through the window, and it's on the second story. So that's gonna be interesting if I ever need to do it. But anyway, I love the sink. Like I said, I built it so that I could basically put 4 16 by 20 trays in here. So it works out really good. Underneath I have just a ton of chemicals. Now I do mix a bunch of chemicals from scratch. Then this actually was a kitchenette when we bought the house. The upstairs was split into a second rental property. And so this, I tried using this as much as I could, and I kind of failed on a bunch of levels. I tried making, I built the, you can't see that. I built the cabinets down to basically try and make sort of a fume hood. And then I built a light trap in here, and then this is an exhaust fan going out, but it doesn't pull enough air up there. So I ended up putting another vent right here, which this one's really amazing. It's from a Terra Bloom, and it's a brushless motor. But so those are both on, it's gonna get kind of noisy, but both on switches right here. So this one, you know, I really wanted the air to kind of suck from the back, but this one sucks, you know, straight across. So it's pretty good. And then I have this front just clipped on. So if I really need it to exhaust faster, I can. Anyways, I'll turn that off. So then I also have intake. Whoops. All right, we'll deal with that later. Intakes coming off the main forced air down here and down there, and I do have inline fans in there too. Unfortunately, they don't move a lot of air. So I wanted a pressurized room, but this fan kind of just works so good, and it does have a little adjustment, but it basically just sucks everything in. But it's good because it gets good airflow in here, so no big deal. Let me see, the most important thing, I got music, a whole bunch of labware, chemicals for lift printing out, just to remind me that I should do some lift printing. Then underneath, so when I brought this sink in, I had to build a new frame for it. So basically I built a frame and then bought some screens and put those together to size, and just put some hanging rails on the side. So these just slide in and out. Not the best either. The bottom one gets hung up. I don't know. My measurements were a little bit off, but they work. Let's see, sometimes when I try and slide them back in, it sticks and I don't know. But it works. So then I also built this sink, smaller, shorter sink, we'll call it. And this has got my print washer in it. And this is from VersaLab. Yeah, VersaLab, it's their 16 by 20 print washer. And then I think they make an attachment. I don't know if I have it or not. I think they make an attachment that you can put 16 by 24 or bigger paper in it as well. I also, when I plumbed this in, I used all copper, and I have a hot water filter and a cold water filter, which I completely need to redo because I cannot, the way I did it, I can't get the filters off. So I have to put like a filter bracket, and I should have used like flexible line tubing. So at some point I'm going to have to pull this out, which it's not real difficult to do, but it's just one more thing to do. So let's see. What else? All my trays and stuff are down here. I also built a film drying cabinet, which is kind of small. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get in here too, but it works. And then originally I had the air, and all these have like filters. All the intakes have filters over them. You can kind of see that in there. But originally I had it so the air would come up through and dry, but then I blocked that off on the bottom. So it was just dust on film. Dust just sucks, period. at one point my whole goal in life was to have like a dust-free, completely dust-free room. Somewhere along the way I just gave up and decided just deal with the dust. But as you can see, I even have a compressor run through. So if I turn this on, there's a compressor in a back room, and then the line comes up. And so, well, it's not pumped up right now. So that's pretty cool. And then I have a inline vacuum too, right there. So turn that one on. So I got a little obsessed with all that, but it's nice. Then I just have 2 safe lights. There. This one's got a Kodak OC on it, and I tip them up. I tend to just work in really dark light as much as I can. But occasionally, if you need more light, you can just flip them down. But that way it kind of bounces out, it mutes it a little bit and fills in a little bit better. And then I got the same style light over here. And that one, I believe, sorry, I'm probably bouncing all over on you. That one, I believe, is just a regular red Ratten filter. But yeah, so they're similar. They just both have them on switches. And the other thing that I have here is for developing sheet film by inspection, I have a foot switch down here. So, and then there's a really dim, it's a green filter, which your eye is most sensitive to green light. And I'm not really sure, but I don't think it has anything to do with the film sensitivity. I think it's more like your eye can really see in green light the best. I could be wrong on that. But so basically, if you're tray developing film in the complete darkness, after about halfway through, you can start turning this on a little bit and hold it up, and you can kind of see where the densities are. I'm not very good at it. I managed to just get like developer all over myself, so I kind of went back to just doing time, but I haven't given it a lot of practice. But anyway, it turns on with a foot switch. All right, so you got your standard darkroom timer. Then I just have a ton of, I still have some LD20, which they stopped making, but I've been using Arista Lift Developer, bunch of different chemicals, a bunch of lavender. Oh, the temperature gauge on this one, which this is another fail on my part. Luckily, I'm tall and have long arms, because I don't know if you can see that. Like, I have to reach all the way in here to get to the temperature adjust. So when I kind of just winged it putting this, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted a wet side and a dry side. Other than that, I kind of just went in and started building, which is kind of what I do. The other thing, this was a huge window at one point, and it doesn't look that huge right now, but it's a pretty massive enough that I had to order, I don't know if it was from a Lowe's, I don't remember where I ordered it from, but I had to order a special size board, and that's just like thick MDF that I ended up painting with like a marine paint, and I just coated it really good. And this was probably 6 or 7 years ago at least, and it's holding up pretty good. I might down the road at some point have to replace it, which I'm not looking forward to, but it's working. So then I put more of that window ceiling stripping in, and then I just took some like furring strip, or I don't know what to call them, like hanging rails, and pressed the board up in there and then screwed into it. So I had to screw into the window frame a little bit, but I still have the windows down in my basement so that I can replace them. And then it was really easy to, like I have this exhaust, and this was a Delta 1. I forgot to mention that. This was actually a Delta 1 exhaust fan that I bought from Adorama, I believe. Let's clip. Let me take this off. And this piece and this box, I wish I could have bought them separate, because I bought it, and I hate to even say this, but the fan that came in it was made in Milwaukee. So, I live in Green Bay, so not far from there. That fan sucks so bad. It was terrible. So you can see where I clipped that off, right? I ended up taking it out. I used this and you can see where I screwed it into the other fan. It was so noisy and it wobbled and it was so inefficient. It was a disgrace to darkroom fans. It really was. So yeah, Duran, sorry, but you gotta do something about your fans. It was ridiculous. This one from Terrabloom, holy man, it's amazing. I mean, it's made for, let me turn this on. Yeah. I mean, this one, like I can feel, if I go put my foot by the vents, I can feel it sucking the air in. It's just ridiculous. It's so powerful. But it's cool because I can turn it down. So if I'm in here toning, I can take the cover off and I can crank that sucker up. And when I'm working, I can, you know, if I'm just doing regular printing, it doesn't bother me so much. But then if I'm lift printing, now I even wear a gas mask in here with this Arista stuff because I just think it's like the older I get, the more the chemicals mess with my head. So anyway, I think that, you know, I got cabinets down here. I got a chair I never use. Oh, there's a air conditioner behind here, but it's like, I don't know, 5 degrees outside right now, so I don't need that. But that's nice in the summer. The forced air in here doesn't really keep it. It gets pretty cold in the summer and it'll get pretty hot in the winter. So I found that I have to I had to put an air conditioner back in there. Yeah. Anyway, there's a air filter purifier thing up here. You know, my negatives, miscellaneous stuff, and I have a bunch of different easels and, you know, contact printing frame. There's a foot switch for the enlarger, which is nice. But I'll go through and kind of go through more of my darkroom process as things evolve here. I'm trying to get in here more and trying to make some more videos. It keeps me inspired to do more darkroom stuff. This is actually an LED video light, which when I first started recording in here, it was so darn dark that what I did, let me see if I can show you this. Okay. So if you got any light sources like this, I just ordered some. It's like a ruby red, and then I took gaffer's tape, and it's just, looks like it broke right there. Let me see. Yeah, so I'll have to retape it right there. But I mean, it actually works pretty darn good. So I just took ruby red, and wow, that doesn't look as red. I mean, it's pretty safe in here. I mean, and then I point that up into the wall, and that has allowed me to do more filming. Because like I said, I typically have darker, like a darker work environment as far as being in the darkroom. Just, I don't like to do a lot of testing. I couldn't tell you if my safe lights fog my paper. I don't notice, so I don't think they do. Even I probably tripled the brightness in my darkroom and still didn't notice, any noticeable fogging on the edges of the papers or anything. So I'm pretty sure I'm safe. I know back in the day I did some safe light tests, but I don't know, this would be a cheap, I guess not cheap, but it's battery operated. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you could make your own safe lights. Just some ruby red film from Amazon, and yeah, it works pretty good. And then the one thing I do want to do is somehow put a string so I can just hang, if I'm printing on resin coated, I can just hang it. I typically dry everything just on my screens down there. Oh, the other key thing is I have a microwave down there. Comes in really handy if you need to adjust temperatures on things. Microwave, and then I have a hair dryer. And This is a food plate warmer. I don't know if you can see that. The food plate warmer that basically it'll keep your chemicals warm. It kind of started to melt the bottoms of one of my trays, so you got to watch the temperature, but it does a pretty decent job. The only thing I would say is that when I wired all this in, you can see these are on GFIs and they're covered. So if you're gonna do something like this, just, you want to make sure that you're safe with it, because you don't want to get electrocuted. Yeah, so everything's kind of uncovered switches and GFIs, and I think they're just outdoor boxes is what they are. And then I built this little rig for the water coming off the lens. So, but I think that's about it. I hope you enjoyed my mini darkroom tour, and I hope to catch you next time.